Ready? Yep. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the January 28, 2020 meeting of Pequannock Town Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Excellent. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of silence, and thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen.
It's like riding that.
Councilman Cole, that was excellent.
Don't do that.
All right, the clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Florence Lynch will be with us in a few minutes. Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mrs. Russell? Here. Mayor Hurd?
Here. All right, presentations. There are no presentations scheduled for this evening. Report from volunteers. At this time, are there reports or comments from any of the volunteers serving our community? Frank? Yeah?
Is that a no from the back there?
Dave? All right. Forever hold your peace. Next item on the agenda, public comments. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come up to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Come on up. We don't bite.
I have to go over there?
Yes, please, come up to the microphone.
Don't be nervous now.
No, I'm not nervous.
Okay.
Well, I guess I am.
That's all right.
We're nice
Good
people.
evening. My name is Daniela, and then this is my friend Christiane.
I'm sorry.
We're both...
Just two.
I need your last name and your address.
Oh, Lobo Roush.
Could you spell that?
Lobo, and it's hyphenated Roush, R-A-U-C-H. I live in a 209 Comley Road in Lincoln Park.
Okay.
I used to live in Pompton Plains, though, at West End. We are both registered nurses, and then the reason why we're here, because we're getting our bachelor degrees in nursing, and part of one of the requisites for us to graduate is to choose a town, and I chose Pequannock. We're focused on the elderly community, and then I know we have the senior place there. We came earlier here to gather some information. We were only really able to get a lot, so I'm probably going to go online and see to, know more about the town. And basically what I was wondering is, what is the community offering for them? Because the rate of depression in elderly people is just getting higher and higher. I know people are living longer, they're also living sicker, and depression is one of the #1 complaints. I work at St. Joseph's Hospital, she works at the Robert Wood Johnson. We get a lot of elderly people on a daily basis that suffer from that, and for a lot of different reasons. So basically that's it. I'm going to go there, go do some future visits and talk to other people that probably can give me more information. But it's just as a community, if they have something to include them, part of a socialization, so they don't feel isolated, that's all.
And I agree with you. Unfortunately with our seniors, socialization is a problem. They usually self-isolate, so they stay at home because they don't want to be a burden on anybody.
That's it.
So it definitely is a big issue. There is a senior meeting if you want to come to it, which is, I'll tell you in a second.
Congratulations on almost getting your bachelor's.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I believe it's the first Tuesday of the month at 10:30.
Yeah, it is Tuesday the 4th. Senior meeting is 10:30 over at the senior house, which is right next door. It's open to the public, so if you're not working and you want to stop by, that's definitely a way to start.
What day of the week is it?
That is Tuesday.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, the 4th, at 10:30 a.m.
What about
Okay.
Disc 55? And that seniors too?
I
We have a
believe
couple
they
of
meet at
groups
the same
seniors
Yeah.
meet.
We actually went to, well, there's a lot of phenomenal things about this town that we discovered
you.
that a lot of places don't, which is the Dollar Ride. Meals on Wheels, it's an excellent thing that they have access to. I know public transportation is not that big, but we still have buses, although an 80-some-year-old cannot get it, but we have the Dollar Ride. So this is, and I asked her, we have to do some volunteer, like community hours, we're probably going to do it to help out with them and then help them grocery shopping, and it's a big concern, and it's just like, I'm glad that you guys are aware and part of it, participant. There was nobody at the adult senior there, but I don't think it's like an everyday, right? But I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
It's their own choices, but that's the part of it. I know it gets to a point that they don't have any family, all their friends are gone, so, that's it. So you think coming next week it'll be better to gather more information?
Stop there. They can give you some information. They can also tell you about DISC. And there's another organization in town, Newbridge, that also does work with our seniors. They're right on Newark Pompton Turnpike.
Oh, okay.
So
We
you
have
can look them up.
two very large senior housings where they do offer all sorts of activities for the residents.
Is that
there.
the Hurl?
That's the Hurl Village and Cedar Crest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? All right. There being no additional public comments, we will continue with the agenda. Next item on our agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor. Two items on the manager's report. The first is the ordinance that was scheduled for introduction tonight. It's consistent with what was discussed at the last meeting, and there's a discussion item scheduled for later in the meeting on the sewer master plan.
Excellent.
That is my report, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you very much. Moving right along. Public hearings, no public hearings scheduled for this evening. Ordinances for the introduction. Next on the agenda is ordinances of introduction of ordinances. Mrs. Marsh.
Your first ordinance of the year. This is ordinance number 2020-01, ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock, requiring the registration of contractors providing tree care services within the township and revising the species of trees to be planted.
All right, Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Consistent with the recommendation of the Shade Tree Commission, the ordinance creates a registration for those tree contractors operating locally. It also removes the list from municipal code, empowers the Director of Public Works in consultation with the Shade Tree Commission to maintain that so it's more dynamic, and just clarifies language about responsibility when a tree is installed, not in the municipal right-of-way, but at the request of a homeowner on his or her property.
Okay. Council,
I would
any
just like
questions?
to add something to that. I think the Shade Tree has been working on this for, how long, Stacy? A year or so? Right, so the Shade Tree Commission is very excited about this ordinance being put in front of the council, and it's really something to protect our trees and protect our residents from scrupulous tree cutters or tree trimmers.
Perfect. Anybody else?
So this I think I know the answer. This is any tree on anyone's property?
No, any tree on township property.
So if you don't mind, the requirement is for anybody operating within the Township of Pequannock to register annually as a tree contractor. They also have to pay $5 for a decal per vehicle so that they're known as being an identified, contractor who's met the state requirements. And the responsibility issue is, we have a practice where for development or other issues, someone can make a request that a tree be installed, and the language that's currently in the ordinance is a little confusing.
But that's
So-
on township property. If we remove a township tree and
Yes.
put a tree on their property.
Right,
which
but
would
then
not be-
they are responsible for it, we are not. So once we plant the tree, if it's in the municipal right-of-way, it's our tree. If it's outside the municipal right-of-way, it is whoever tree who requested it.
Right, and
So if it dies after 6 months, we're not planting another tree.
right, we're looking to protect our trees on our right-of-ways.
All right.
I really don't understand that. I think the ordinance is great, but I don't understand how they figure out if it's our tree or
Measuring from
their
the
tree.
center of the,
Yeah.
am I getting this right, Dave? Measuring from the center of the street, it has to be 18 feet?
We have varying rights of way on different streets.
Side,
Now,
small
depends
side
on which
streets are
street.
different than main streets and.
Okay. whatever.
Yeah. They have a list in the Public Works Department.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Hello.
Roll call?
I was about to ask the councilwoman if she would like to vote on the ordinance, since she is the first vote.
I'm doing on the stray ordinance.
The one that we've been...
Can we open it up for questions again for her? That's good.
Sure.
The tree ordinance?
Oh, for the
Spoke
tree
about?
one, yes, that we've talked about. I will. I don't need to ask questions on it.
Okay.
For introductions for the ordinance number 2020-01, Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd?
Yes. All right. Next agenda item is resolutions. Miss Marsh, you have a lot of stuff.
Beginning with Resolution R 2020-59, authorizing the acceptance of a hold harmless agreements from Robert Zoda and Corey Zoda for Block 2107, Lot 8, which is 48 Sunset Road. R 2020-60, authorizing a professional services agreement between the Township of Pequannock and H2M Associates Incorporated to amend ordinances related to the 2019 master plan. 2020-61, appointing Adam W. Brewer as fund manager and Diane Rizzi as alternate fund commissioner. Appointing Adam Brewer as fund commissioner and Diane Rizzi as alternate fund commissioner to the Morris County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. R 2020-62, appointing Adam W. Brewer as the Township Commissioner and Julie Kuplik as the Township's alternate fund commissioner to the North Jersey Municipal Employee Benefits Fund. Resolution 63, canceling unexpended general capital appropriation balances. 64, canceling the Recreation Capital Improvement Fund to Recreation Capital Fund balance. 65, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits. 66, authorizing release of inspection escrow deposits and bond for ABN, Bedanco, and ABN Realty. R 2020-67, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the January 24th, 2020 bill list and the 2016 FEMA elevation escrow list.
All right. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
I actually have one on the, I was going to ask before, SWM Consulting, it says for FEMA firm map appeal.
Yes, that's the township's engineer who participated in the modeling.
Okay, so that's, okay.
Perfect. Anyone else? No. All right. Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-59 through 2020-67.
And I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Excellent. Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd?
Yes. All right. Next on the agenda, items for discussion, sewer utility master plan update.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, with council, I'll run with a brief introduction. This was something that was discussed a few times in 2019, and most recently on the January 14th meeting, there was a conversation about questions and answers. As discussed on the 15th, I sent out the questions and answers that had been posed and responded to by the project engineer, and the item has been scheduled for discussion.
Okay. Council, do we have any other questions after all that? You think we can move this forward?
I think we could, because all my questions have been answered, pretty much. I think it's something. Go ahead.
So with the new master sewer plan, moving it forward, we still have to open it up to anybody who wants to connect? That's part of it?
One of the principal shifts in policy is that because the adequate capacity would be a first-come, first-served basis, as opposed to a prioritization of the areas that are identified in the plan. So we would still have priority areas, but because of the adequate capacity, if someone wanted to connect without cost to the township.
Yeah. I do have one question, which I think was answered. I just want to make sure. So in our original master plan, when we talked about First, Second, Third Street being done, that's still a priority area that will get done.
Unless all the...
But we don't know when. We
Unless
don't
all
know
the
when.
capacity is used up by...
Right. It's not
individual-
definite. You can't say without a doubt, because if it's all used up, they don't get done.
Right, if suddenly
I really-
everybody on, I don't know, not the boulevard, one of the streets said,
Right.
we want to all put sewers in, and they used up all their capacity, no, then First,
Technically.
Second, and Third, and Fourth Street will not be done. Because our capacity will be
Because
used
of the
up.
capacity will be, I
Right.
mean, that's the
Not
only
that
thing,
that's
that would
gonna
be a nice
happen.
priority, but we don't know when that could happen, so.
Right.
Unless we chose to do it at some
Unless-
point, saw
right.
capacity going down and chose to do it, which
I mean, that's
Well, you
something
could
we
put a
could
cap.
always do, right?
You could put a cap on how much capacity we could give away at this point, reserving capacity for First, Second, Third, and Fourth Street.
Yeah.
You could say, here's
We
what
could
we need.
encumber that, if you will.
Right, here's what we need, here's what the excess
Right.
is.
That I would be
Therefore,
comfortable
that's
with.
only, the only amount that we're allowed to give
Mm-hmm.
away, if that's what you're referring to.
and we could ask the engineer to continue to monitor it, and when we get, as we get close to, if, it's unlikely, but if we got close to that point, ask him to put that kind of a priority on there.
Is everybody okay with that?
I'm okay
Because-
with that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would like to see. I don't want to see them thinking that they were next in line, and now all of a sudden we say we're out of capacity.
But realistically, it's going to be a very long.
Yeah, and I get that. And that I understand. We don't want to hinder other people if they're willing to pay.
Right,
I
the question is, how much are we going to charge
Now-
them and
Right.
so forth?
Let me ask you a question. So if somebody decides they want sewers and they bring the line down to their house and they pass 3 other houses, do those 3 houses have to connect?
By state law, I think they do, right,
Well,
Bob?
see, then it's not fair to those 3
So
houses.
that's what I'm saying. So like, I think my big problem is just opening it up to everybody to do whatever they want. And then the people who have lots of money win, and the people who don't.
It wouldn't be whatever they wanted, they'd have to come and get approval for connections and that kind of
Approval
stuff, too.
from who?
Well, they'd have to do a couple things if you're talking about, right, sewer and water department.
But the mandatory connection, and, just throwing this out there, I'm thinking on my feet, I don't have the answer before I ask the question. Could it be something, that the ordinances have to be modified to pull a lot of the existing code out that specifies things that really shouldn't be codified? The how-tos, that's more policy than code. Could the ordinance be modified to satisfy the councilwoman's concern to say, if it's a voluntary project undertaken by a resident, they may not have a mandatory connect? Now, the state code would come into effect if their septic failed.
Correct.
But the 3-year requirement to connect that currently exists in the ordinance.
We could
may not have to
eliminate that.
persist.
Yeah, we could eliminate the R requirement. There still would be a state, and the state requirement only kicks in if you have to replace your septic.
Well, that would make sense. If somebody's septic,
They're going to want to connect.
they're
to
going to
sewer
want to
if their
connect if their septic fails.
Think about that, though. Kyle, you live 6 houses away from me, and you want to bring sewer down. I'm like, go ahead.
Right.
Because all I have to do now is decommission my septic
Right.
And shoot out the
But-
connection.
and can pay the $3,000 connection fee, and I'm golden. Because right now,
It's 6,000 now, isn't it?
3,500.
I have another-
3,500.
I have another proposal. Can you make it that if somebody is voluntarily doing the project and it affects other people, they have to pay for it?
Well, you can't,
No.
the planning board, yeah,
No.
if part of an approval
but part of it.
process, that's a different scenario.
Right.
That's a development proposal, and you wouldn't be
That's
able to
what I
make them pay connection
No,
fees or
but-
anything. Pay to put the sewer in,
That's what I
sure.
mean.
Right.
And they are frequently required to put the sewer.
No, that's what I meant.
But
Yeah.
not to
Oh,
connect
sure.
everybody else down the
No,
street.
they don't connect
Right.
everybody.
So if Kyle put the sewer line in and she's running past my house, the only thing I would have to pay
Right.
is the $3,500 connection fee and the hookup and
And you don't pay for the
decommission
hookup.
of my.
And you know what, that may
And
be
that's
the-
a win-win.
But
I
that
think.
may be the
think
way
that's
we
a win-win.
think, but look at how many people in the village were mad they had to connect. Look how many people haven't connected. So we can't think the way,
I think
If the
we
council
have to
wants,
think for everybody,
if
not
the
just
council
the
sees
people who
fit
have
to
tons of
relax
money.
the requirement of the 3-year connection timeframe.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Something that it becomes voluntary. The people who were in a project that's a municipal project, they're subject to
different.
that mandatory connection.
But if somebody brings
Right.
it down that street, I think it's fair that they don't have to mandatory connect within that 3 years, unless they have a failing septic, which
Of
I
course.
believe,
That's
Then
state
they'd
code.
want to-
$3,500, it's a lot cheaper to connect than it is for a $30,000 septic.
Yeah.
Most people who have a failing septic, they're not going to tell you unless they're moving.
But at some point, that's
Yeah.
lot.
And in which
Yeah.
case, then they're going to want to connect.
So does that make sense? We can amend it, and then you can bring it up for...
Well,
When we do the overall
With the
sewer
ordinances.
ordinance, we'll take a look
Okay.
at that. We'll reopen that and point that out.
So that'll be tweaked when everything everything has gone through.
When the
Right,
legislation.
why don't you
sense.
write the ordinance and let us look at it?
Yeah.
And then we could tweak it from there and then introduce it. Don't try to put an ordinance on for introduction.
Isn't there a bunch of other things that have to be tweaked too at the same
Yes,
time?
and they can all go in there and you can look at all of them, Rich, before.
Right, you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
suddenly next meeting, I'm gonna see, well, here's an ordinance for introduction.
But
Yeah,
do we
no, that
all,
makes
do we
sense.
all agree moving it forward?
We should do something.
We should do
I
something,
agree, too.
but let's really
we'll draft
think
the
about
ordinance
how
for
everybody's gonna be
discussion.
affected, to your point.
Perfect.
And I
doing
think,
this
you
for
know,
one person.
having the engineer monitor to make sure, and I don't know if it was first, second,
What?
third, and fourth, I think it was third and fourth.
No, I think it was all three of them, or all four of them.
We can't talk about
Yeah,
it.
so whatever streets were on the original master plan.
You have to set aside that.
Yeah.
So there's two core things, setting aside capacity, and then making sure that connection doesn't affect the other people connecting down the block.
I don't know if we need to set aside. I think someone needs to monitor to make sure that we end up still having enough for those
We need to set
areas.
aside.
Well, what do we legally have to do, right?
We need to set aside.
I think we should encumber it so that it can't be touched.
There you go.
I know.
Okay.
And that way it will survive whatever transitions happen and it's carved out.
Everybody good?
Yep, good.
Yeah, we'll review it.
Thank you. All right, moving on, there are no reports and notices. Next on agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
I don't have anything new, except I know the Economic Development Committee had met and did their reorg. Paul, I believe is still chair, but he was going to send me an update. I'll have to, Carol, did you get an update from Paul?
No.
I'll forward it to you.
Thank you.
So you can include it, but, because I wasn't at their meeting, I couldn't be there.
Actually, I'm not sure. I'll check tomorrow
I
morning.
think he forwarded it something, so,
I will do that.
all right, I don't have anything new, so.
All right, thank you. Councilman Cole?
Fair Housing met last Wednesday. Rocco Saluch is the chairman and Mary Thomas is the vice chair. It was a relatively lively meeting, so.
Anything with Rocco?
I also like to know, Adam, do we have a Optimum Cablevision rep?
There is a government affairs rep who works out of Newark who typically responds to my emails within a few weeks.
I mean, is there any chance that we can get someone to come to a meeting?
Request it, sure.
You know, the amount of, the quality of service that we're receiving from, you know, it's all you hear is people, you know, they lose connection, it's 7 days before they can get an answer, you know, if they get connection back. I mean, it seems like it's a nightmare. Me personally, I think Cablevision and Optimum is on its way out. I think
They
there's
were
going to
bought
be...
out by,
Do we have a contract with them or no? That's all that's here?
There's a franchise agreement.
There is. And how long is that for?
10 years.
Yeah.
And when is the 10 years up?
Not
I think it was just approved.
Because everybody's
you can't
unhappy
get
with them.
anybody else.
And it's so funny because when you call up to say something about you're trying to get a better price, they say, you know, what's your zip code? And then they're like, oh. Yeah, we can't do anything.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
Rich is right. The only problem is...
There's nobody else.
It's like the garbage
monopoly.
contract.
Yeah.
We go out to bid for garbage, we get one bid.
Yeah,
And
and,
we have no one else. I mean, they have us... you know.
right, and we have a franchise agreement with them, but when they renew the franchise agreement, discussions about rates are off the table. The state does not allow us to breach that subject.
Okay.
So we're really so limited in what we can even talk about in the franchise agreement that it doesn't really end up achieving the whole.
So we can only bring them into town, but FiOS can't come in?
No, they
FiOS won't put
They
the
will
money.
come in.
They
They
won't.
won't put the, because they got...
FiOS is furloughed. They're not doing FiOS anymore.
They're in violation of their statewide franchise that they were granted 15 years ago because they were supposed to build out to the entire state. But with the advent of 5G, they just stopped.
Yep, and they have no interest in
And to be honest with you, I think they both know that it's, with all the technology that's coming out...
Cable's gonna be gone.
It's going to be gone. You know, this Fire Stick and Hulu and all this other stuff. Hulu?
How about Sling?
Yeah.
Sling?
But, you know, I mean, but the quality of service that we're getting is horrible.
It is, I agree.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, maybe if we can get the guy here.
Cut the cord.
Let him know.
There's nothing you can
Yeah,
do
we
about
can't cut the cord.
No.
No.
So is it council's desire that I reach out and ask
Yes,
them?
please.
to attend?
Agree.
Sure, get them in front of us.
I will
I mean, we
make
used
the
to-
request. I can't make any guarantees, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, we used to.
Yeah.
There used to be lots of them.
Yeah, right.
And then I think there's only one.
there's only one.
All right.
That's
Anything
all I
else,
have,
Councilman
thank you.
Cole? Thank you. Councilman Phelan, do you sling?
Yeah, I sling.
All right.
Shade Tree met yesterday, and obviously today we introduced the ordinance on that. Also, the scratch that we got on one of our municipal vehicles last Saturday, which most of you are aware of, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Russell?
Couple of dates, March 3rd at the high school, 5:30, empty bowls. Dave, we talked about this, right?
Yes,
So the
empty bowls. That's
middle
a Tuesday.
school, in cooperation with the high school, created some bowls. You come, you buy a bowl, you have soup, and then you take the bowl home to recognize that not everybody has soup.
What was the day on that again?
So it's 5:30 on March 3rd
That's a Tuesday, I think.
at the high school.
Yes.
March 20th is Grains of Hope. March 28th is a mini golf fundraiser sponsored by the Friends of the Library. April 4th is the Mayor's Cleanup. And May 5th is the library book sale.
That's a lot of stuff. All right. Is that it?
That's all I got.
Thank you very much. All right, I want to say we had a great reception at the Fire Company 1 and 2 at the Legacy Castle. It was always nice.
Yes, very nice.
Had a great time, lots of good food. I definitely appreciate that. We had an Eagle Scout, which is actually number 72 of all of our Eagle Scouts. His name is Dewey. That was very interesting. Congratulations to him. From there, we met with Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. She was very nice and accommodating, and it was very interesting speaking with her.
She moving back into the district?
We'd like to. I met with the Historic Society. We were talking about the interpretive plan for the Martinbury House, which is really guiding the use of Martinbury House. So it's going to enable us to have focus on how to use the asset, as well as what kind of things, when they're donated, what we're going to allow in. March 3rd, we also have Vaping with Timothy Shoemaker. That's going to be at the high school, and it's for parents to talk about vaping. And that is all I have for now.
What time is the march, is that? That's later in the
Everything
evening,
starts at
after the
7.
bowl.
Yeah, that's at
Good.
7
Oh,
o'clock
that's good. That'll
at the
be-
high school. So you can go to the bowls first and then come to there. And that's all I have. So next on the agenda is public comment. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Seeing none? No, just
Right,
kidding.
here comes Frank.
Come on, sir.
Frank Spazeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. Two things. First is the food pantry across the street needs donations, so if anybody out there has extra food, please bring it over to the church. Second, while I was home recuperating, I was watching Channel 77. We have no audio. So I meant to get you earlier and tell you that, but if we could have somebody check that, because the council meetings go on, we can only see you move your lips, but we can't hear what you're saying, so, you know.
It's a politician.
Classic.
We're wasting all the video that we have here, so if somebody could check that, that would be
I'll get on it
appreciated.
tomorrow morning.
And if somebody needs some help with that, or you need somebody to, you know, keep an eye on it, I'll volunteer.
I'm sorry, is that everyone or just one?
I watched twice, and there was no audio.
The same video or
No, two different times.
everything?
Two different
And
meetings.
normally, when they have the swelling of what's going on, there used to be news on the bottom, you know,
Yeah.
audio news, the cable, yeah.
That's cable.
That's not even there, so something's not right.
Out of kilter. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone else?
My name is Peter Schmidt, 16 Manor Avenue. I was in the Economic Development Council last week as a visitor. And the big topic there is the master plan. And actually there was a representative, one of the members was in the master plan committee, and basically said, of course, they want now to implement all these recommendations. By no means, I think there are many, many good recommendations, but there is no budget and no timeline associated with any of these recommendations. So I think somebody has to say, well, what will it cost? What will be implemented? Is it all mandatory, or we just pick the ones we can afford? So maybe one needs sort of some budget with all the recommendations and see what is their financial impact. Okay?
Thank you very much. Just so you know, Mr. Schmidt, there's almost a hierarchy of recommendations, the first being the zoning ordinance.
Yep.
And tonight the council authorized a contract with the planners. So with the recommendations, I've solicited proposals, talked to various professionals, reviewed the budget, see what's available, and that was acted upon tonight.
And I think zoning is budget positive. It will bring in more money than needs to be spent on it.
So that's item one.
So it's but obviously you have a list that you pick, and 30% will fall off the cliff at the end. And is that a secret list or a public list, or?
No, the list is in the plan, and we're going one at a time, and if we don't have the money, we don't do the activity.
Yeah? So maybe that it would be good to have that public somehow, to say this is in, this is out, this is too expensive, this is actually very good for us financially. Okay?
And Mr. Schmidt, have you taken a look at our Chamber of Commerce as well?
I missed the meeting today. They had a meeting, but it was too early for me.
If you ever had a chance, peek in there. You'll like that as well.
Yeah, I think of course it's relevant, and a lot of recommendations are good and will bring money. But I think one should go open-eyed into these projects and say they will bring money, they will cost money. This is worth it? This is not really worth it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dave Holbert, 289 Boulevard. Just a comment on your sewer master plan discussion. As the discussion ensued, you can see that there are quite a few issues that come up when you start allowing individual connections, and frankly, you really just kind of tip the iceberg there. There's a lot of things that need to be considered, such as if one resident's going to extend the sewer to their home, but the street goes another 2,000 feet, the size of that pipe needs to be sized to accommodate the entire rest of the street. So we're not building things that need to be ripped up and rebuilt. So that should be, incorporated as part of the master plan. There's a lot of really touchy things when you start getting like spaghetti lines. You don't want individuals connecting by lines that you can't find. Who's going to be responsible for those? Who's going to mark them out? At what point does the town take ownership of them? There's a lot of different things that you're going to have to identify and should be part either of the master plan or the ordinance when you deal with it. The other thing I'm going to suggest is if you're encumbering capacity, do it for both business districts, since you're planning on changing zoning. Hopefully, we're going to have some redevelopment, which will use some more capacity. Let's not use all the capacity somewhere else before we get that redevelopment.
Thank you, Mr. Holbert.
I would imagine
all of those things have been discussed, and I appreciate your comments.
But I do remember the conversations about the spaghetti piping and how do we make sure that
it's got to go in front
as
of the
they're bringing it
engineer.
up, right?
I just don't like the whole free-for-all idea.
The things that Mr. Holbert identified will be specifically described.
Thank you, sir.
It will not be left to the Wild West.
Yeah, can't do that. All right, anyone else? All righty. Next on the agenda, we already went through that. Minutes for approval. November 26th, December 10th, December 20th, regular meetings, and then December 12th, a special meeting. Councilman Phelan to abstain on December 10th and 20th. I have both dates here.
Okay, good.
Are there any comments on these minutes?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, you want me to make a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 26th, December 10th. What else we got? The special meeting of December 12th,
And then the 20th.
and then December 20th.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next on the agenda, are there any items for the closed session?
Yes, Mayor,
Yeah,
two items.
do it.
Contract negotiations, bulk order from the City of Newark, and litigation sewer assessment appeals.
All right, so I need to get a approval to go into closed session.
Is there an ordinance to go into?
Let me make a motion.
Put something over there? You gotta read something, I think.
Well, there, Mr. Brewer stated it. I think that's enough. It says, is there a resolution to go into closed session to approve resolution?
Oh, I
Sorry.
see. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R 2020-68, authorizing the Township Council to meet in executive session to discuss contract negotiations with the City of Newark and litigation of sewer
I'll
assessments?
make a motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, public portion of the meeting is recessed for closed session.